Hi, we're back after technical difficulties.
Yeah,
I take those really hard. They happened like another episode where I
we
had
take
to
those.
manually ballast every time Joe talked versus when I talked because I balanced our audio so badly. It was really
Aw.
bad.
Just
Um,
forgot little boy butts so much.
What's happening?
what? No,
Like
that's a good point. Tagashi is a little bit pedo sometimes.
there's a
That's
clip from the 1999 anime where Hisoka zooms in on Gon and Killua's butts.
yeah. He goes swing.
He goes swing.
That's also in the modern one, but that's
There's,
not what we're talking about anymore.
there's
We
also
lost
a
that.
scene where Gon and Killua stare down Hisoka's raging boner.
Yeah, what's like they do? It's kind of weird.
Like, they're absolutely terrified of this erection.
Tagashi wrote in a pedophile to the story, and we're all like, "Yeah, he's the best. He's the best
He
character."
is!
He created a self-insert.
Oh God. Oh, maybe Hunter x Hunter not so good.
Like, in the anime, their eyes, like, go from down to up,
It's
and
true.
it's just like, oh.
You know what else is horny like Hisoka? Final Fantasy VII Remake.
my
Transition.
Oh my god.
So, I've recently completed the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and Joe has recently completed the Midgar section of Final Fantasy VII Original. So, we could both dip into that a bit.
Yeah.
I'll let
And then
Joe
we
go
also
first.
started.
Doing the remake, and the other
I
one's
also
doing the
started.
original.
Oh, yeah. What? I also started playing Final Fantasy 13. And we'll get into that a little bit later. I
Really?
think maybe.
I didn't know that.
Yes. I put it in our chat.
Yeah, it's on sale, right? I should get it, because it's
yeah,
only on Steam.
It's $5. I kind of really want to talk about Final Fantasy 13 and its opening.
No,
it's
not
the-
today. No. Like,
Not today.
not
Not
we're going
today.
through a lot right now. We need to
I
stick
know.
to schedule.
Final Fantasy 7 though, I got to the Midgard section. I literally finished it 2 days ago, and then I played a little bit more, and then I died when I got my chocobo. Forgot to save, and so I have to go back and do it.
Save, Joe.
Oh my God. I didn't think I would die to it. Never mind.
Did you try guarding?
I lost the snake.
Oh yeah, definitely. That happens.
But Final Fantasy 7, the original, holds up.
Right?
Like that combat system is really good, and it takes like that first section to kind of understand what you're doing, and that first boss will be like, oh, okay, I understand like the pacing and
The
everything.
real time strategy, the ATB as it's called.
Yeah.
Where enemies are acting while you're in the menu, and enemies have phases that are time based and not turn based.
Right.
They
And so-
tutorialize that really well.
They do with us, especially with the mistranslation of attacking the tail.
Yeah.
But I think that game does a really good job of presenting itself within the first 5 minutes. Like, this is what the game is. This is how you do it. Here's the limit breakers, magic, attacking, and then you get a small tutorial on the materia system,
Which is great.
I think the remaster does a really good job of making it really easy for you to play as well, and kind of cuts down. It really gets rid of the major number one negative thing about old JRPGs, which is random encounters.
Yeah.
By
and,
putting
and
them on.
potentially wonky balancing. None of that.
Yeah.
None of that you
yeah.
have to worry about.
So we've already talked about it before, but I started, and I agree with Willer. Like, oh, this is really good, and that's not even talking about the story. I think the story is pretty good so far.
Yeah, the script and the dialogue of original FF7 is so good. I was so impressed that the story was actually good for a person playing it in 2019. We talked about
Yeah.
this a year ago because this podcast is a year
Yeah.
old.
But
yeah.
I just a year later, I thought I'm having a great time with it.
It's really good.
But I am now legally allowed to play Final Fantasy VII Remake because I finished the Midgar
Which
section.
segues me into Final Fantasy VII Remake. Man, Tyler looks defeated in the camera. And I feel you, dog. I feel you, dog. Final Fantasy VII Remake, you kind of have to play the original to play 7 Remake because, unfortunately, a lot of people wanted this to be their way to experience the FF7 story.
Mm-hmm.
And while they tell that story really well, and they kind of nail it and improve on a lot of stuff, they take away on some stuff, and by the end of it, you realize this is not a replacement for FF7. It is so much a it is so much a additive thing where it's like not only do you need to have play the original FF7, you need to have good knowledge of Crisis Core, Dirge of Cerberus, and Advent Children, because they all come into this. So
Crisis Core is fun, at least.
I hear it's fun. Slots. Zach is from Gongaga, which is a Twitter meme right now, for some reason, probably because 7. Yeah, so like, I don't talk about it a lot, but I think about the FF7 story quite often. Just to myself, I'm like, man, that was a really good story with amazing themes and great characters that, despite their pop-by blocky selves, had so much charm. So going into this remake, my most important thing was you need to get these characters right, and then you need to do all the stuff that made FF7 special. So that's the themes and the goofiness as well, because the game is very lighthearted at times, but then also very dark, where partway through this game, and spoilers for a 20-year-old game, because that's where we live now, partway through FF7 and the remake, there's a part where the bad guy corporation drops a plate of Midgar into the bottom section of it, and it's like a super 9/11. Thousands of people die. It's horrific. It is like the evilest thing I might have ever seen in a game, to be honest.
And I think they do a great job in the original, because there's a brief section at the beginning where there are 3 guys they're running around with, doing a job with, and they kind of have their own characteristic and their quirks.
Yeah.
And they die due to this thing happening.
And they die super hard.
Yeah.
All 3 of them.
All 3 of them.
Yeah, about that. So, a thing with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, I want to circle back to that point about that plate drop, because it's indicative of what I think they didn't do well. But let's talk about what they did do well. This game is so gorgeous. It is one of the prettiest games I've ever played, with some of the best environments I've ever played. That being said, Bradley was over briefly the other day, and I was like, man, the environments of this game are really pretty.
Yeah.
And then I turned the camera, and there was like this horrible texture popping, which is like something that's an issue with the game.
It was kind of hilarious talking about how pretty the game was, and we saw this like maybe 64 by 64 texture, but like actually though, Willer, the whole time I was over there, I think you were just walking around that one area near Eris' house, and I was like, holy shit, this is such a cool area. Like,
they set dress incredibly well.
Yeah, you'd be walking around, and like just the outside of the little house looked great. All the entire garden area was great. And then what was really crazy to me is when you pan the camera up and you get to see up above the rest of Midgar. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, Midgar at night, when you pan the camera up and you see the plate above you, and that is their version of the night sky, that tells so much about that world and that city. Not even that world, because Midgar is such a small part of a much larger world, but it tells you so much about that place just from environmental design. It's gorgeous. And the main, so not the side character models, they're pretty bad. The main character models are some of the hottest, most perfectly crafted human beings ever crafted. They're insane. They are so detailed. They have like algorithmically perfect everything about their character designs. It's like they spent so many hours in the design room, and they spent so many hours modeling it. That I feel Joe's getting his PS4. I feel like he's about to buy the game right now.
Don't tell me what to do, Mom.
Okay. Do it, son. Buy the game. So it's amazing. The voice acting is phenomenal, dude. They got the perfect cast, and they delivered.
That was my biggest worry, was the voice acting,
because you get like Kingdom Hearts, where it's like really stilted and bad voice direction. I mean, it's charming in its own way, but then you have Riku, who talks like this. Sora, I need to go into the data, Sora. But then like the voice direction here,
me, he says,
so good. It's God, they brought these characters to life. Barrett's voice actor, Aerith's voice actor, Cloud, Tifa, Red 13, like they all sound fantastic. And there's extra dialogue. The dialogue itself, the script of this game, is phenomenal. It
Yeah.
is so good. They like every conversation they have with each other feels natural. They bring out a lot of the characters' personalities. It is generally one of the best scripts I've ever played through. I got really invested in these characters. That being said, everyone's super horny in this game, especially Jesse. God, Jesse wants your bones. That's another thing. Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, which are the three characters Joe brought up earlier, are actual like fleshed out characters. And some of the they took this thing that took Joe like what 4 to 5 hours to complete.
Yeah, I would say about 5 hours. I would say
they took a 5-hour part of a 40-hour game and expanded it into a 40-hour game. This comes with some problems. This also comes with some boons, which is you get to add a couple of extra missions that really flesh out the story. For example, there's a mission where you go with Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge to Jesse's house, who is in the top plate. So Jessie lived in the top plate. Now she lives in the slums with y'all because she's part of the terrorist group that you're part of.
Oh, that's really interesting.
In this mission, Biggs and Wedge and Jesse go in and they're talking about like, man, your mom, I hope she makes that pizza that I love. You get this sense that they come up here every so often and catch up with her parents. But when she walks in, she's like, Cloud, wait outside. She walks in and then you get like a small like voice flashback of what Cloud's actually doing there where Jesse's like, Cloud, I need you to break into my house while I'm distracting my mom. I need you to go into my dad's room. My dad is like bedridden, comatose. You need to get his Shinra ID card so we can take it and use it to infiltrate a disposal facility where we can get a bombing agent that will be less destructive when we bomb the next reactor. So it's this really fantastic story like segment where we get to learn more about Jesse, and then you get like this base raid that's just you and Biggs and Wedge. And then you just get some time to spend with Biggs and Wedge and see them help you fight as like NPC fighters.
Cool.
That's one of the best additions they've added. They've also added this character called Roche, who's a soldier 3rd class. So in the world of Final Fantasy, there's the soldiers of Shinra, which are the bad guys. They're like these amazing soldier warriors. And once you get to actual soldier rank, you go through Mako therapy, which makes you a very strong fighter, but kind of starts degrading at your mind. So it was really cool to see another soldier that you fight, and he's insane. You have this bike sequence where he's doing like Devil May Cry flips on the bike as he fights you, and it's so out of left field and it's so Nomura, but it's like, yeah, that is a good representation of what a soldier would be. So I really like those kinds of additions. But then you have the padding, the actual bad padding, like the side quests, which I hear are pretty bad for the most part, very uninspired. I hear because I did one side quest the entire game, which is the mandatory one you have to do in Chapter 2, and then I ignored every side quest, and I had a much better experience for it. But then also the main chapter stories have like big padding, where the biggest takeaway I can take from this game is that every single sequence should have been half the length. So you have like a dungeon where you have to replace the sun lamps on the top of the plate, the sun lamps that shine down on Sector 5. It's like, okay, this is interesting. It's kind of like we had to take away the power from the city to progress in our terrorist run, so it's kind of morally gray. Ooh, that's kind of fun. But then that dungeon goes on for like 40 minutes to an hour. You're replacing like 3... It's so long. But then you get to the fucking sewers, man. Chapter 13, you go down to the sewers, and you get this extended chase where you're chasing this rat. And you're chasing this rat for so long, and you're fighting these really tough enemies as you're chasing it. It's like, oh my god, this should have ended so long ago. And that kind of goes for every segment, even like the really good ones, like Shinra Tower. Shinra Tower in this game is amazing, but it's like 10 hours. I was in Shinra Tower for so long. It's insane how much extra stuff they added in there. Some of that's amazing, like you're going through tours of the propaganda that Shinra is giving out to the people, and I think that's a really meaningful addition. But yeah, like it's lengthy. I beat the game in about 30 hours. I think this game should have been like 22 hours at most. You could cut out a lot of chaff from the gameplay segments. What was that, Joe?
I didn't even get to the main like meat of the story. Like I'm 5 hours into the original game, and it now feels like, oh, this is what the story's actually about. It's about Sephiroth and the materia and the whole live stream and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it especially starts kicking off when you go into the town where Red 13 is from very early on. And that's when it really kicks off, the main plot. So yeah, they took this small part of this game. Like, I'd say Midgar's the best setting, but all the interesting plot comes afterwards.
Right.
Really stretched out this Midgar part, which makes me worry that It makes me worry that they won't give the same amount of love to the other sections, but like they did such a good job that it's like they know what they're doing. I want to talk about the combat real quick. Or sorry, Joe, go ahead.
I was gonna say because like.
Oh, you're cutting off here. Huh. Did Joe freeze for any of y'all?
He froze on my end.
He froze for me also.
Yeah. How's the combat compared to Final Fantasy 15? Because, like, when you're moving around the camera and everything, that's how it looks like. But is it similar to, like, Final Fantasy 13, or do they stay true to set like old 7?
It is. I can't believe Joe still. He probably doesn't know he's frozen. It is like 7, but made an action game. So it's that seems like a non-answer, but it really is how it feels. Where the combat is it's not even maybe. It's my favorite RPG combat ever. Where you attack enemies with basic attacks, and each character has their own combos. And Barrett and Aerith specifically attack from long range. And as you attack, you fill up what's called the ATB meter, which goes up to 2 charges. There's Joe. Joe's back. Sorry, Joe. I'm talking about combat now. You got to save your point.
Okay.
So those 2 charges, you use them to activate spells or weapon skills, which don't take MP, but you have to learn by, like, I equipped the Buster Sword, and I unlocked Braver for Cloud. But if I equip this other sword, I can unlock another weapon skill for Cloud. And that all works so well. There's like a time freeze where you're selecting skills. But what really works is the amount of strategy that there is. There's not much strategy, I feel like, in FF15 combat, where you're just kind of attacking and dodging and kind of strategically throwing out spells. But here you're attacking to build up this meter. But when this meter is built up, you're playing FF7, where you're casting like, okay, Barrett is the cornerstone of my strategy. I need to make sure he's safe. I'm going to cast Barrier on Barrett, so that way when he gets enough ATB, he can cast Haste on Tifa, because Tifa's the one that builds up a lot of ATB and spends it for damage. So you get this chain of like actual RPG strategy, but in real time, and it's like, I hope to God that FF16 and future Final Fantasies branch off of this if they want. Like, this is it, Chief. They did it. They've been experimenting with not turn-based combat since 12. So 12, 13, and 15 all have like these alternative combat styles. But I feel like they finally hit it. And I'm also excited that we're gonna get 1 to 2 more games in the FF7 series that's gonna use this combat. So I'll at least have that. I'm very excited for that. So, to answer your question, Tyler, it is significantly better than 15 combat. Joe is frozen again, unfortunately. You hate to see it.
What if he's just mastering the art of really still poses?
What if I cast Stop on him? That's what's happening.
That's interesting to hear. I really enjoyed Final Fantasy 15's combat, and there's also a turn mode aspect you could turn it into.
Yeah, it's true. You can go into wait mode. But I forgot, like, what the benefit of wait mode even is, because the only commands you're giving is to your party members to do their attacks, right? And to throw spells, so it's like, I'm not really sure what...
the boys, though.
I love the boys. The boys are great.
The boys are great.
Joe's back again. Joe, you want to say something?
Why is it 2 of me?
I don't know. I cast Stop on one of them. Do you want to say something while you're here before you freeze again?
Yeah, so the thing about this series is I want to know how they handle the rest of it going forward and how long each part's going to be. I haven't been in the original game, so I don't know, like, logistically how you could split it up. Because the ending of the Midgar segment is like, oh, okay, makes sense to end the game here because it seems like a good like kind of climax. You get the top Shinra Tower and all of that. But I don't know going forward how it's going to get split up, and the carryover as well. Like, what is the point of me playing the first part of the series, and how does that carry over to the second part of the series? But doesn't feel like I need to play the first part of that series if I want to just jump into that second part of the series.
I told you that like they could start part 2 by having Yuffie steal your materia.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Yuffie is missable, and so is Vincent. So look up a guide to make sure you get them, because you can already get Yuffie. It took me a while to realize I could.
She hasn't stolen my materia yet.
Yeah, I think it's when you meet her. But they're definitely going to roll that into the story this time.
Wow. Yeah, because I thought Yuffie didn't come till later.
No, she comes really... Does she? I thought she came really early when... As soon as you can leave, if you do stuff in the forest, you have a chance to run into Yuffie. So
you know what? I think you're right. I think it is as soon... I think you can get her as soon as you leave Midgar. I guess, like, I just didn't head that way until later.
Yeah, I just hit the calm.
It's an RNG event that has to happen when you're in the forests, which is also a big problem because it means the main story is now not written around having Yuffie in the party. So she gets a couple of dialogues, but like Yuffie and Vincent get their side chapters and a couple of dialogue bits in the main story. But like, yeah, it's kind of a shame. I talked about it where it's like you can easily miss them. So it's cool that they're going to roll that into the story. So the thing I want to close off with is Sephiroth and the Time Ghosts.
Time boom!
Yeah, actually. So, Joe, how many times did you see Sephiroth in that Midgar section?
None.
Weird.
Yeah.
The only time you see Sephiroth is you walk into the Shinra office and you see
you see a sword stabbed in the back.
You see his giant ass sword stabbed
that he leaves everywhere. He left it in front of Genova with Tifa.
He doesn't care about he has multiple, I guess. So, yeah.
Monster Hunter ass.
The build up to Sephiroth is very tense. You're going up that tower, you never see him. The first time you see him is in the Calm flashback. And it's a very powerful flashback. Sephiroth is pretty frequent in this game. In the remake, you see him a lot. He's tormenting Cloud, which is weird because in the original, he doesn't give a shit about Cloud. And that's the best part about Sephiroth. Cloud is just a puppet to Sephiroth. And Bradley, you might be able to remember this from your time playing it. Like, did you ever get the sense that like Cloud was integral to Sephiroth's world or his like? I thought you very clearly get this idea where it's like, oh, you're just one of the numbered tools for me.
Yeah, something like that.
I have a question for you, Bradley. Actually.
Okay, I might not remember because last time I played, I think was 2014.
Right. So when you beat FF7, and we'll try to not be spoilery, did you think it was a happy ending? I don't know.
God, I don't remember anything after Omni Slash.
God, boy, I have stuff to talk about with Omni Slash.
I don't remember anything past that last attack.
I will say so. The ending. I got the idea that the ending of FF7 was a happy ending. However, this game goes into a direction in Chapter 18 that makes me rethink if it was, because if it was a happy ending, then this game's plot makes no fucking sense.
Oh.
Because, and I'm going to get into a bit of spoilers here, and I can do it safely because Joe knows about these spoilers a little bit. Mm-hmm. The plot of FF7 Remake is that Advent Children Sephiroth has found a way to go back in time and try to fuck up the events of FF7 so that he won't get killed and he can live and he can fulfill his goal of cleansing the planet of humans.
Go. Boom.
Which is weird. Which makes it not a remake, it makes it a sequel, first of all.
Yeah.
And part of that is there's these ghosts in the game, and you find out that they are arbiters of fate, where it's like, so, and it makes sense because, not to go too much into FF7 stuff that Joe doesn't know, but the planet has self-defense mechanisms.
It's got the life stream.
It's got the life stream, and it's got something called weapons.
Joe, is this your first time playing Final Fantasy VII?
Yeah, I've never played Final Fantasy VII.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So you remember the weapons, right, Bradley? So there's like Ruby Weapon and Diamond.
Fuck yeah, dude.
So like the planet has the self-defense mechanisms, so it reasons that the flow of time also has like a self-defense mechanism. So that's fine and all. But like as soon as you hit chapter 18 and they leave the motor chase highway, the dialogue takes a sharp turn into Kingdom Hearts, and it's so jarring. Where they're suddenly talking about like Destiny and how we need to defeat Destiny and we need to defeat Sephiroth and the ghosts.
With Kyrie.
That's the plot of Final Fantasy 13.
They gotta teach the ghosts how to do it.
No, I wish so. The ghosts are meta for us, the fans who don't want stuff to change. That's cool and all, but why'd you have to make the writing around them so shit? Like you fight Darkseid for Kingdom Hearts. You fight Darkseid as the second to last boss of this fucking game. I was so mad.
What if this remake is the way to get Cloud in Kingdom Hearts and explain all the Final Fantasy characters in Kingdom Hearts, and then we get Final Fantasy Kingdom Hearts as the next Kingdom Hearts game?
That's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be Final Fantasy 2 Kingdom Hearts. Advent Children of the Crystal Chronicle Lights.
They generally love this game too much for that. But you know, y'all didn't finish Kingdom Hearts 4 DLC. We are totally jumping into like the World Ends With You stuff and other Square stuff. And Final Fantasy stuff. So it's like there might be something there in the future. But so the game ends with like we're gonna break fate but then you get this idea that like, did Final Fantasy VII end in a bad way? Because I didn't get that sense. And apparently, like, there's a theory that the last things you see in Final Fantasy VII is a world devoid of humans, even though Final Fantasy VII has a sequel called Advent Children, where they're still humans. So that means in between that time...
And Cerberus.
And Cerberus, which is also after 7. But, like, the last thing you see in 7 is 500 years after. And it's this shot of Midgar, and nature has overtaken it. And it's like, okay, does this mean there are no humans? But there's children laughter in the background of this scene. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, so are there humans? Or are these, like, there's some characters that are in that ending that aren't human. So you're like, oh, is it those characters?
This is interesting to me.
Yeah, because, like, I got the sense then that... So I got the sense that humanity survives... But they leave Midgar behind because it's unsustainable. The whole point of Midgar is that it is the sleaziest city where like it has to drain the planet dry just to survive. Okay, cool. We don't have to rebuild Midgar even if humanity survives. They can live a more natural life. Well,
even in Advent Children, like they basically salvage Midgar and make its own town outside of it that doesn't use any of its technology.
Yeah,
and like it's called Edge, I think. So it's like that's really weird.
So I guess like if the theory is that humanity dies, it must be sometime after Advent Children. So maybe that's what the fate that they're trying to change.
But that doesn't make sense because then why would Sephiroth go back in time and stop himself from happening?
Wait, yeah, because that's what he wants.
Well, you see, Mary.
So, hi Tyler. So the thing with that is, it really seems like the bad destiny that they're trying to change is Aerith dying. And that's not a spoiler to Joe. Everyone fucking knows Aerith dies. Right?
Yeah.
I will say that Aerith dying is the single most important part of the plot of Final Fantasy VII. And not just the plot, but the theme. Because Final Fantasy VII was made because the director needed a way to express the grief he felt from his mother's death. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to make an experience that would help you understand that grief. And it absolutely does. Even today, like, the death of Aerith leaves a big hole in your party. It is a very touching scene, even with the dumb PS1 graphics. So it's like, if they undo that, they are going against the theme of Final Fantasy VII. So I hope they don't. I really hope. But then it's like, then what is the bad destiny? Because, like, yes, Aerith died, but humanity lived on, in my eyes.
That's the whole point, is that, like, you can't... In order for like you to live and survive, is you have to sometimes like things have to end or just be taken away from you. It's that arc of like the character.
And her death is the only good death in that game, because you've seen atrocities like Midgar dropping the plate, the reactors blowing up and hurting potential innocents. You've seen There's a point in FF7 where a lot of destruction happens around the world. So Aerith's death is the one death that means something for good. So it's really important that it happens on so many levels. So I'm worried that they might redo that. Because I don't understand the destiny that they're trying to change here. So it felt really weird. The dialogue goes from, I said the dialogue was amazing and the best. Not in Chapter 18. It's like it was written by Nomura himself. And it was really rough, dude. I left really disappointed. But I am excited for the future. But the thing that makes me worried, too, is that in the remake, they minimize death. So when the plate drops, you get the sequence of Aerith evacuating everyone you know. Like, every NPC that you met in the earlier parts of the game survives the plate drop. And it's just like, oh, god damn it, you're trying to sugarcoat this
because,
so
much.
Like,
it's important that you sell to the player that, the stuff you eco-terrorists are doing might actually hurt people.
Well, yeah, but the plate dropping is Shinra, right? So it's like an atrocity they create. But you're actually right.
Oh, right.
The first reactor you blow up, like the very first thing in the game is you blow up reactor 7 or whatever. I forgot which one. Now, in this game, they make it so that the reactor blew up as much as it did because Shinra let it blow up. They actually increased the explosion so they could pin it on Avalanche, which makes sense narratively, sure, because Shinra is mustache twirling evil, but it takes away the moral ambiguity that comes up later in the game with Barrett and Kate Sith, or Kaishi, I think it's...
AKA the best scene in the game.
Right, we talked about it last time, and it's like, well, if Barrett didn't actually cause that big explosion, then what is the point of that future scene? And like,
I know, right?
After you blow up the explosion, you walk around Midgar and you see how much people are devastated, and it's actually really good. They fucking nail it. But so while they increase that and they increase the moral ambiguity there, they take it away by making it so Shinra did it, and they take away the value of death by making it so everyone that you knew and loved escaped the plate drop. So it's like, I don't fucking know, man. Amazing game, 9 out of 10. You should play it. I have some qualms narratively, but it might also be like a very interesting experience. They said that, like, everyone after watching interviews were like, okay, the next games are going to remain like 80 to 90% faithful, but they wrote the ending, so it's like, okay, we're going to remain faithful. You're going to see all your favorite locations and scenes, but we are going to change some stuff, and we have a narrative reason for why it's changing. So you're going to have to kind of accept that. And that could be exciting. I mean, as long as they do all the good scenes.
Tip reason? I think if you're going to change something, it just needs a reason to be changed. Like if it's an out-of-date joke, or like it just was a really bad section to play as, or it's because you get scammed by a kid because he wants to sell you some fucking weed to get some chocobos. But whatever.
But they are doing something meta here. Like it's not artless. There is reasons for these changes. It's just like I hope that they deliver on the rest of the game. Like there's stuff after Midgar that I'm dying to see with the level of love that they gave Midgar. That's my only fear, that they're gonna deviate so much that we don't get to see them. But my fears are whelmed because of interviews and stuff. Like we're going to get all the good stuff. Aerith needs to die. That's my one hard line. Also, I might not. I don't know if I should. Joe already knows so much about the ending. We're gonna get more Zack stuff in the next few games.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. Gongaga Boy in a different universe is definitely alive. Please look forward to double Omni Slash versus Sephiroth with Zack.
I can't wait till you have to fight. I can't wait. You have to fight Genesis
You might.
And Sephiroth.
Someone brought up the idea that
well, at the end of Dirge of Cerberus, Genesis Genesis comes back to life.
Yes.
and takes off in the sky.
No, let's not worry about that. Yeah, amazing game. I can't wait for the next one. But that chapter 18, man, that chapter 18 and the plate drop and the padding are my takeaway, like my negative takeaways from this game. Yeah, good game. Can't wait to see Joe play more of 7 and play the remake. We'll probably do whenever he plays the remake, we'll talk about it more.